Today on Energy Contact, have you ever had a run of bad luck, had a time in your life when you lost a job or whatever, had to cut corners just to get by? What is it about those hard times that makes us angry, that makes us irritable, or that makes us want to withdraw and get away? Today, we're going to find out about all that and about what it has to do with your health and with your anatomy. So stay tuned and stay calm. Relief is coming up right now on Energy Contact.
I'm gonna drive away all these doubts I've been keeping and doubt. Keep my mind on better things. He ain't gonna worry and I ain't gonna complain. I'm gonna drive away all these doubts I've been keeping and doubt. Keep my mind on better things. Just keep my mind on better things.
Hello, and welcome to Energy Contact. My name is Joseph Willenbrink. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you to the production staff here in the studio for helping me get my message out to you. Energy Contact is a series I'm presenting to you as a public service. It's about attaining perfect health, growth, self-improvement, happiness, and realizing your full potential. It's designed to present you a new way of seeing yourself and a new way of seeing the world around you. We're talking about things that have to do with making an energetic contact with yourself internally and with your environment. There's no difference between the body, the mind, the spirit, the emotion, the intellect, the ego. There's no difference between mass and energy. These things are all exactly the same. There is something about us that just loves to categorize and classify, dissect, parse these things out, take one little chunk out of the whole, look at it under a microscope and think from that we know everything. But in fact, all that health and self-improvement we're talking about take place when we do just the opposite. It happens when we put these things together. It happens when we make an energetic contact between the physical world and the invisible one. We're presenting on these programs a brand new paradigm that's thousands of years old. We're presenting extraordinary topics for ordinary people. And let's move forward with that. Let's bring up our slide. Everyone please understand that I am not a doctor. This show is not a medical show, medical advice show, medical talk show, anything like that. Could not be further from it. Now I call myself an energy healer, a chakra healer, things like that. So might you if you came to me. But state, federal, and local governments call me no such thing at all. And it's important to understand that. There's a lot of important information on your screen right now. Please read all of that, if you will, with your full attention. But when you've got it down, now would be a great time to locate a pencil and paper. And here's why you want to do that. At the end of this program, we're going to run some credits, and on those credits, there's going to be contact information for me. Now, I invite and encourage you to contact me. I'm sort of hoping that something I have to say today might inspire you to want to do that. But in order to contact me, you're going to need that contact information. In order to get it, you're going to have a pencil and paper handy. So please locate that now. All right. Today is episode number 19 of Energy Contact. And if you're tuning in for the first time today, well, thanks. Thanks and welcome. These shows are sequential. They build. So we're talking about things today that we've introduced and explained and defined previously. There's some ramp-up things, some up-to-speed stuff that you will have missed out on. However, I do my very best to make sure that every program has a lot of value on a standalone basis. You'll get plenty out of today's show, just as it is. However, if what you see today piques your interest, well then I'll invite and encourage you to look around, because there will be earlier programs airing at later times, either re-airing right here on this station, or perhaps on at different days and times in different areas. And if you look for them, I'll appreciate it. All right, and now it's the time of the program where I get to introduce my co-host to you. This is my buddy Slim, and Slim is here for a reason. Since we're investigating what it is that the energy contacts in the physical self, we've got to know a couple of things about a couple of things, don't we? We've got to know something about energy, and this is a program all about energy. That's what we're talking about. But all of that energy out there somewhere does us no good at all. It does us no good until we bring it into focus, until we bring it into contact with something. My pal Slim is here to help us understand what that thing is that the energy contacts. Remember, energy, a body without energy is just a corpse. And energy without a body, well, it might be a number of cool things, but none of them are human. Okay, previously on Energy Contact, we have been looking at the body intellect and the anatomy that it builds. We've seen how thought becomes anatomy. We've seen how the same materials in our brains, all those synapses and effectors and receptors, all those things that give us thought, memory, recollection, recall, logic, intelligence, all those things, we were always told they were brain things. But we've learned that they, in fact, are in every cell of our body. They permeate, they saturate us. We've seen that we are all made of atoms that are all identical. Carbon atom in you is the same as a carbon atom in me, same as one in a lump of coal or a diamond. They're all the same. And we're made of cells that are all individual, like snowflakes. But those atoms, and therefore the cells they build, and therefore you and I, are mostly holes. We're just empty space. We're bags of nothing. In like manner, we all have instincts that are all exactly the same in all of us, but reactions, the things we do with those instincts, are all different. What we've been talking about the past while is primal things, instinctual things, and we've observed what all these things have to do with our core beliefs, core actions, core thoughts, core feelings, core everything. We've been looking at that core for some time now, and we've specifically seen that it manages breathing, survival instincts, sexuality, digestion, elimination, the autoimmune system, thoughts and feelings, instincts and reactions, how we process energy, how we manage close relationships, and those are just a few of the things. We've just scratching the surface of it right now. Last show, we introduced something called Maslow's need hierarchy into the mix, and we saw that these same core needs were what Maslow explained. We'll see that again in a minute too. So in the context of all this core business going on, we've learned a bunch of anatomy too. We've learned about the pelvis and the psoas and the perineum. All of what we need to know about our core, be it physical or metaphysical or invisible or whatever, is all in that bowl of guts and goo that is our low abdomen. Now your doctor, your shrink, and your energy healer might not know that, but now you do. All right, and that brings us to today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we're going to get a little bit more into the anatomy of it all, literally and figuratively. We'll look at what happens today, not only when we fail to move ahead, but when we fall back. We want to know what that will have to do with our health, our growth, our happiness, our self-improvement, and the realization of our full potential. That's what we're looking at today. We're looking at that and what it has to do with our anatomy. We've got a few other questions to answer today too, like, well, how do we transcend? How do we get out of the jail that is the bottom of Maslow's ladder? Now that we know that being stuck there will make us sick, it's a pretty good idea to figure a way out, isn't it? How are we ever going to do that? How are we going to get behind these core pursuits? We've been talking about core things. How are we going to get beyond core things and get up to some non-core things? And what about when times get hard? How do we allocate our energy when what we've been used to having isn't there anymore? That's where we're headed today. But first, we've reached the part of the program where we get to stop for a second and take our virtual field trip, our journey in our mind's eye. And for today's field trip, we're going to return to the one we did last time. Do you remember? You'll recall from the last show that you won the lotto. Oh, hallelujah. And you experienced what life was like on the other side. You won a fortune. But we also put you through some changes. And today, we have some more changes in store for you, so get ready. Today, imagine that you return home from your months-long vacation and you find some shocking news. The money's all gone. All of your investments have turned sour. Oh, I don't know why. Maybe banks failed. Maybe that can'tmiss.com that your cousin-in-law talked you into investing in went belly up. Whatever it is, the money's gone. So you've gone from riches to rags. You've got less than nothing. Certainly, you've got a lot less than you had before you won that lotto. About this time, somebody says to you, well, at least you got your health. And that's nice, that's comforting. But you observe that when people tell you this, things aren't going well. That's the only time they tell you stuff like that. It's bad times. And that's the case for you right now. And your health is none the better for it. And so the bills start coming in. And there you are looking at them, there's nothing to pay them with. And it's like the car payment, the power bill, a couple of traffic tickets. Oh God. Before you know it, they're carrying all of your possessions right out of that new mansion you got. And then, before you know it, they're carrying you out. And all of this has put you through another set of physical changes. See how the health deals with that. You get short of breath, you lose your appetite, your sexual energy gets nutty, you feel unsafe, you're afraid, you get diarrhea and cramps, you're confused, you freeze, you don't know whether to fight or run away. Oh goodness, it's just awful. You curse the day you ever won that stupid lotto. And you can't go back to your old job either because you already told the boss what you really think. So there you are. You're humiliated, disgraced. Just a few days ago, you were a big winner. And now, you're a big loser. But you know what? It's okay because you're a good person. And because you're a good person, you've got good friends. So there you are at the bottom of the world. And one of those friends talks you into coming over. It takes some convincing. You don't feel like doing anything. But finally he talks you into it. And you go over to this friend's house and you open the door and the lights come on and people jump up. It's a surprise party. It's a surprise party in your honor. Your friends are all there to show their support for you. They've taken up a collection to cover your worst bills. They put up a deposit for a nice little apartment in your old neighborhood. One friend has even made some connections that'll probably turn into a new job for you. And those friends all gather around you and they tell you, look, as long as you're our friend, you're never going to have to worry about food and shelter. You'll always have that. You'll always be provided for. You'll have a place to be safe and secure. You'll have love and companionship. You'll always have a place where you belong. So feel good about yourself. And you know what? For the first time in a long time, you do feel good about yourself. Hold that thought. We've been looking at your core on Energy Contact and your core needs, and we've seen that there's a hierarchy to it all, a system of priorities. You're prioritizing every second of your life, and consciously, you're not really even aware of it. But your body intellect is aware of it. You can do without food for a couple of weeks. You hear about people going on 40-day fasts and things like that. But you can only do without water for a couple of days. But even if you're very thirsty and it's been a couple of days since you've had a drink, if someone puts their hands around your throat and you can't breathe, you will stop thinking about water completely until your more basic need is met. Nothing else matters. These are all core needs, and even the most primal needs have a priority system, as we're seeing. You can't move up a level in your priorities until you master the level where you're at. Old mystical cultures knew this thousands of years ago. Let's take a little break here and bring up a slide, and we'll see some comments about this. To the man who only has a hammer, everything he encounters begins to look like a nail. Who said that? That's one of the most profound statements you'll ever hear on Energy Contact, and it captures our theme. Let's come back up here. It was Abraham Maslow. That's the name of the fellow who said that. He was the 20th century psychologist who studied and explained the way we need and the way we prioritize. Maslow knew that we innately have this priority system, and he knew that we had a core. But he may not have known that these things are all managed by the body intellect in a particular location of our anatomy. That's what we're discovering. But before we review Maslow's pyramid, let's come back and take a look at another model of what controls need, of survival and the search for filling our empty places. Let's bring up a slide. Oh my goodness, look there, it's the psoas, and it presents us with a priority system of its own. The most important thing we have to do is breathe, and that's managed by that psoas in conjunction with the diaphragm and with the help of the intercostal muscles, the rib muscles. Our most primal and life-preserving instinct is to survive, which we usually experience as fear. Beyond air, water, and food is fight and flight and freeze. Then after that, there's shelter and warmth, and that's all managed by the abdominal muscles, primarily that psoas there, which controls all of our basic responses to fear. Our next most primal endowment is our sexual energy, which is managed by our psoas and the muscles of the pelvic floor. as is digestion, elimination, and even the way we relate to people. After that, in order to move, we have to have a functional structure. We have to have a bottom of us that won't run off from the top. The psoas manages structure too, and locomotion. It's how we relate to life, how we relate to the earth, how we relate to the external forces, gravity, energy, and entropy. Okay, there's one view. Now let's look at all this through Maslow's eyes. Let's go right to our next slide. And let's start at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid there, at least the bottom colored stripe there. At physiological needs, at the very base of Maslow's pyramid, we think about oxygen, breathing. We think about water and food. After that, shelter and warmth. Then the needs to be active, to rest, to sleep, to eliminate body wastes. After that, to avoid pain. And after that, to be sexual. All of these things are physical. They're in the body. Also, all these things are primitive. They're all part of that very bottom rung. And only after those physiological needs are met are we able to move on. After that, we move to the second layer and we become increasingly interested in finding safe circumstances, stability, protection. We start to develop a need for structure, for safety and security. And only after we feel safe do we move up to the third level. And at that level, we begin to feel the need for love and belonging, friends, a sweetheart, children, bonding, a sense of community, a place to fit in, the church choir, the bowling league, the motorcycle gang, whatever. And at this level, you become increasingly susceptible to loneliness and social anxieties. After that, we begin to look for a little respect, and we advance to the level of esteem needs that you see on your screen there. Now there's a lower version of that, excuse me, the need for respect of others, and a higher form, the need for self-respect. And all of those things in total cover about 95% of that pyramid there. You'll notice underneath that pyramid, all of these things are deficit needs. We'll come back to that. But for now, let's come right back up here. There it is, an all too brief review of Maslow's need hierarchy. Now here in the Western world, we have a lot of that stuff taken care of, seemingly automatically. We all have our physiological needs and our safety needs all provided for. Those first two levels usually aren't a big deal for us. And more often than not, we have some love and belonging too, or at least something that is an excuse for it, something that covers it. But in our modern world, it's at the esteem level where we get stuck. We get stuck looking for respect. We get stuck thinking about stupid things. We occupy ourselves with things like, waiter, we were here 10 minutes before them and they've got their food already. Or somebody cut you off in traffic and you think, don't you know who I am? You better respect me. Don't you disrespect me. So that's the impasse for a lot of us. And it behooves us, if that's the case, to pause and consider these esteem needs for a moment or two, doesn't it? The lack of fulfillment of these needs gives us, low self-esteem, inferiority complexes. Here are all the roots of our neuroses and psychoses and psychological problems. But if we are neurotic, it means that we've met our physiological needs and our safety needs and our belonging needs. Otherwise, we wouldn't be thinking about that. We'd be thinking about where our next meal was. So we're stuck up there in the esteem level. Think that's good? It would seem that we're better off here than lower down. But think again, because we're still in deficit. Being stuck at that esteem level is really not a bit better off than being stuck down there at the very bottom at the physiological needs. And it's not enough to keep us healthy, to give us health, growth, happiness, self-improvement, and the realization of our full potential. Now you know why wealthy people, people who seem to have everything, can be so unhappy and so unhealthy. It's because all of those four levels, that bottom 95% of the pyramid, are all deficit needs. If you don't have enough of something, you feel a deficit. But when you get all you need, you feel nothing at all. It's like taking an aspirin for a headache. When the headache goes away, you don't celebrate, you just go on. In other words, you're just stopping what hurts. And when you do, the thing ceases to be motivation. There's no accomplishment, there's no satisfaction to it. Nothing like that at all. And that precisely describes what goes on in pain management centers. All those people that go to pain management centers, they aren't trying to get healthy. You kidding? They're trying to make the pain go away. The doctor says, look, I know you're in pain, but if I keep giving you these pills, you're going to get addicted to them. And they say, I don't care, doc. Give me the Vicodin. I don't care if I'm an addict. Right now, I hurt. Stress management too. We're all trying to manage our stress and nobody's talking about getting rid of it. How can you manage something if you don't have it? Why don't you sign up for stress elimination training, huh? They don't offer that. We don't want to get rid of stress. We don't want to transcend. We want to have it and manage it for some reason. You ever think about that? Pain management and stress management are what Maslow called fallback positions. And what this shows us is that most of us are not trying to get ahead at all. You think you're trying to get ahead, but you're fooling yourself. You're not. You're trying to scratch that itch, fill that empty place. You're trying to make your pain go away. And a million different people, all equipped with the exact same instincts and all operating under Maslow's exact same pyramid, will all prioritize these needs in a million different ways. That's what makes us different one from another. It's what makes us look different one from another. But at the very bottom of the pyramid, we all look about the same. If you and a homeless dude and a billionaire all survived a plane crash and were somewhere in some barren land, after a couple of days, you'd look alike, you'd act alike, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Here in civilization, we are obsessed about moving forward, though. We have to earn a little more than we did last year. We have to have a little more. We have to have a car that's a little nicer than our last car and a little nicer than the car those guys have next door. But really, what we're doing is we're just trying to make our pain go away, just trying to get back to zero. We base our self-esteem on that, but we can't always maintain. You see, sometimes we get by with cheating on Maslow's pyramid a little bit. And just for a little while, we move up a notch before we're really ready, before we've really completed the assignments at the level below. But that's sort of like building a house on a shaky foundation. And when we lose, when bad things happen, we become obsessed with preserving our pride, with saving face. But wait a minute, it's not our face where this stuff happens. It's our core. Let's look at another slide from our pal Maslow, and we'll go into it a little further. Let's bring that up. Here's Maslow's pyramid again, but there's some new information here. You see there's something in there that looks like a champagne glass or a barbell or whatever. It's a Rorschach test. Whatever it looks like to you, it's all right. When hard times come tapping at your door, we go back and connect to our holes in our process and our progress. You can see from the top of that picture that you might be hanging out at that top circle, that big circle. And there you are, working on your self-esteem and things like that. And here comes those hard times. And then when that happens, we lose our position in that circle. We plummet down the chute part of that thing, just like a fireman down a fireman's pole. And here's what's weird about the human animal. You would think that we would go sliding back to a happy place, to a place in our mind when times were good and when we were better off, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. It's all the same, but that's not where we take ourselves. Instead, we go back to the places in our life where we felt similar pain, similar deficit, to the places of familiar losses and heartbreaks. We go back to the place where we were originally traumatized. That's what it means there towards the bottom of your screen where it says, past deprivations still salient. Let's come back up here. We get more basic then, and we look for more basic things, and we go back to the first time in our lives when we didn't have them. This is why the shrinks say things like, let's talk about your mother. Let's talk about your childhood, because they're trying to get in touch and to get you in touch with your past deprivations that are still salient, back to the time in your life when these things first happened. All right, so there you are, just plummeting down Maslow's need hierarchy, down to the bottom of the ladder. Well, what's below the bottom level? Ever think about that? Well, death. That's what's below that. When you can't meet your basic physiological needs, you're dead. And it happens to people all the time. They fall back so far, they get so snowed under that they can't catch themselves. They can't come back. They've fallen and they can't get up. So as long as you're hanging out anywhere near the bottom, you are barely alive. barely breathing. Go look at some homeless people and you'll affirm that to yourself. The more we fall back, the less alive we are. Now, we've institutionalized fallback strategies in our culture, haven't we? We hedge against them. Everything from insurance to retirement plans to savings accounts to hoarding bags of wheat and rice and sugar in our cellar. I know what you're thinking. Who does that? Well, remember Y2K? A lot of people did. All that scare went on when the year changed from 1999 to 2000. Y2K is an excellent example of people devising a fallback strategy. And it's an excellent example of something else. Not only are we trying to fill our empty space, we're trying to fill an empty space that's not even there yet. We're trying to prepare for an empty space that may or may not occur. We take our heartburn pills. The ads say, don't wait till you have heartburn, take them before you eat. And we do. You know why? Because we're scared to death. And you feel it in your gut. And if we worry too much, we can't breathe, we hyperventilate, we get diarrhea and cramps, we freeze, we get angry, we fight, we run off, we act out sexually, we shut down sexually, we get depressed, we get drunk. Oh my goodness, the emotional has become physical. But wait a minute. There's a way out. We've got to go back to the pyramid. Let's bring that up because we forgot the best part. Look at that space there. See that space near the top? If you can make that quantum leap across that space, you've arrived at something called self-actualization, being needs, which really aren't needs at all. Maslow called them that for the sake of continuity, so will we. But this is it. This is the way out. It's the way off the hamster wheel. You've made it up to zero. You've swum to the surface. You're not drowning anymore. Unlike the deficit needs, which you want to make go away, self-actualization becomes stronger as we go. It involves the continuous desire to fulfill potentials and then to raise your own bar to new potentials and then to fulfill those. Let's come back up here. And so once you've arrived here, something else happens. You can't fall back, no matter how hard times get. You've self-actualized. That's what the term is. You've arrived someplace permanent. Once you've gotten here, you've transcended. And when you transcend, you create health. The autoimmune system works without having to be kickstarted by prescriptions. When you get here, and only when you get here, you are liberated from feeling those deficits ever again. And that's what we're going to talk about more the next time. And we're going to talk about how to get there more the next time. But for today, we're out of time. Until next time, thank you for joining me. I wish you peace and positive energy and a healthy life in Energy Contact.